So this is a curriculum on personal finance. I won't be able to cover all areas of the topic, but it will be enough for you to know the basics of managing money smartly. So the grade level recommendation is 4th to 6th. Obviously anyone is allowed or is able to use it. In this lesson, students will gather a basic understanding of being responsible with money. So by the end of the lesson, I would hope you have an understanding of the different types of tax, mortgage, the different incomes, wage versus salary, different payment methods like cash and credit card, and managing a budget. So let's start off with a scenario. You're the new employee at Ben & Jerry's and get to scoop ice cream all day, which is great and you know you're getting paid, but what are taxes and why are they there? You'll figure out soon. So an oversimplified definition of taxes are they are fees collected from you by the government. This money taken from you is used to financially support government activities. Now, these government activities can be so many things, and they're usually all around you. You can start off with, your taxes paying for education. So public schools. Public schools are government funded, so your taxes pay a significant portion of, U.S. education. The second one you don't need to know a lot about, but just Social Security. It is the government has the government works to help financially support families in the U.S. So whether that be retirement, so not having a job after you're too old, so when you retire, right, that kind of stuff. And the last one right there is medical care. So doctors, medicine, even though medical care is quite expensive in America, your taxes still pay a huge amount of the medical care in the United States. So payroll tax and income tax, what exactly is the difference? Sometimes they're seen as the same thing, but they are not. So let's get into the similarities first. So taxes, so the different types of taxes are income tax and payroll tax. So if you get into the similarities, they both tax the money you earned from your job. So that's a very broad kind of statement, but if we get into the differences, payroll tax is paid by both you and your employer. Your employer is maybe someone that hired you, someone higher up in a position than you, basically the person on the left of the picture patting your shoulder. So that person would have to pay the payroll tax with you, a significant part of the payroll tax with you. But payroll tax is actually more known for paying for medical care. So this tax does account for medical care. It also accounts for Social Security, like we discussed also in the last slide. It does pay for, financial or money help for families in America. So income tax, the best way to think about income tax is that it is only paid by you. It taxes your earnings only. So that also includes money that you've earned outside of Ben & Jerry's. Let's say for some reason, out of luck, you won the lottery. Yes, the lottery is taxed in some states. Or maybe you own another business. Any other, way you earn money besides at your Ben & Jerry's job, income tax will tax you on that. Payroll tax is more specific to your Ben & Jerry's job and your, Ben & Jerry's employer, but income tax does, it takes into account everything, all the money that you've earned. So income tax pays for public education and transportation in general. So continuing with the scenario, you have your first customer. So let's say she wants a large scoop of Rocky Road cookie dough, whatever you want, with sprinkles, chocolate syrup, whatever you want. And she also orders for her friends. So let's say she pays, you hand her the receipt, and you see this. So tax, 8.25%, which is $1.79. Why did she have to pay more? That random $1.79. So This is actually sales tax. So sales tax is a tax on goods, and goods are anything you buy. This can be ice cream, t-shirt, a t-shirt, iPad, pizzas, and way more. So it can be food, clothes, phones, cups, crackers. I don't know. So sales tax pays more for local government activities like schools, education, roads or transportation, and the fire department, which is pretty specific. So most US states have sales tax. Actually, some don't, but the ones that do have different rates. Most do. So, for example, California's sales tax is 7.25%, while Oklahoma's is only 4.5%. Even if if you haven't covered percentages yet, you can kind of see how 7.25 is greater than 4.5, and therefore you would assume that California has a larger or higher sales tax rate. So let's do the math. If you're in California's Ben & Jerry's and your customer buys a $4 ice cream, how much sales tax does she have to pay? So step 1, converting the percentage to a decimal. So 7.25% is technically 7.25 out of 100. That's its fraction form, but we can substitute the fraction bar for a division sign. So you would divide 7.25 by 100, and you would get 0.0725, or you can move the decimal point 2 places to the left. Step 2, you would multiply 0.0725 by 4, and you would get 0.29, which means you have to pay an additional 29 cents with the ice cream. So if you ever thought about owning a business, let's say you're the owner of a candy shop, and even though it's, just widely acclaimed, it's the best in town, everyone's talking about it, you still have to pay the government for owning the store. And no candy will change their mind. Why? Because there's something called property tax. Property tax is an annual amount paid by you, the property owner, to the government, and of course annual again is once per year. So you pay property tax usually once per year. This tax applies to your candy shop and your house because both are labeled land or property. It is belonging to you. It is your property. Of course, in this case, it applies more to like big buildings and houses. But yes, this is a tax. This tax applies to all the buildings you own. So, for example, the property tax rate in Texas is about 1.83% of how much your shop or home is originally worth. And if that's confusing, we'll go over the math in the next slide. So let's say you own this candy shop in Texas. If your property is worth a whopping $500,000 and property tax is 1.83%, how much property tax do you have to pay the government? So step 1, converting the percentage to a decimal again. So 1.83% is 1.83 out of 100. Substitute the fraction bar with a division sign, you get 0.0183. Step 2, multiplying $500,000 by 0.0183, because we are trying to find 1.83% of $500,000. And what do we get? $9,150. You have to pay $9,150 in tax, which is a lot. Now mortgage, this is quite important. So mortgage is a loan given by the bank so you can buy property. A loan is borrowed money. So you borrow money from the bank, usually the bank, in order to pay for this land or house that you really want. So for example, this usually applies to if a house is too expensive, you'd have to take out a mortgage or borrow money to buy it. But you have to pay back that amount by a specific time, because as a borrower you should always return something back, and this is why mortgage is a loan or borrowed money. Okay, so getting into gross income and net income. Net income is the total money you've made after paying tax, and gross income is the total money you've made before paying tax. We all love gross income. It's the money it's the money before you give some of that money away, which brings us to which one is smaller. Net income. because it is the money you have now after paying tax, which means you have less money, which is a bummer, but you just have to pay tax. So net income and gross income are sometimes, seen as the same, but it's important to know that they're not. Okay, wage versus salary. This is another one that people use, as the same word, but they don't really have the same meaning. So wages are payment by the hour, day, or week. So they're like a frequent payment. This is usually for bus drivers, cashiers, like at a store, or a dental assistant. Pretty weird, but so a salary is actually a fixed payment over a specific pay period. So this pay period is much longer. You get paid the same amount no matter how many hours you've worked. So it's a fixed payment over just a period of time. You are not paid by the hour or the day. You are not paid constantly. It is just one big payment, maybe monthly. So weekly, monthly, it's just over a long period of time. These are more for engineers, nurses, architects, doctors, those kinds of jobs. Okay, now let's get into the different payment methods. There's actually a lot in this current, generation. So the advantages of cash, good old cash, is that you have it right away. There are no additional fees you have to, pay in order to get a hold of cash. You're just giving cash. The disadvantages are, if you're a business, you can actually lose customers if you only accept cash. So, every business today usually accepts credit card and cash, or else you just won't have any business. People don't carry around cash that much. Another problem with cash is that some people use fake money, although it's easier to, you know, look out for fake money these days. People can still manage to get away with it. And also keeping track of your money is much harder. There's no, you have to log your money yourself. There's no, app or, application to help you manage cash. You just have to do it yourself. So that brings us to credit cards. So there's a lot of advantages to credit cards. Basically, everyone uses them. It is the most common form of payment in the world today. It is very easy to use for customers because all you have to do is usually, slide it into the machine, and it reads the chip or that gold circle you see on the credit card, and it just pays for you. You don't really have to count the money or do anything that's, time consuming. It is also good for businesses, actually, because customers actually, when they have a credit card, they usually go through this thought process. If they see it and they want it, then they buy it right away, because it's so easy to buy it. Why not just buy it? And that leads to more sales for your business. The disadvantages, for you personally is that you must pay additional fees. What I mean by that is when you try to extract, or try to put more credit, or you want more credit, you just have to, in general, you just have to pay in order to have a credit card. There's a more complicated process in obtaining a credit card, and you have to pay fees, or you have to pay the bank along the way. Also, another disadvantage is it's very easy to break, security. So this means, your credit card information can be leaked or stolen, and you have to be very cautious because on the back of your credit card, you have a security code, a 3-digit security code. And if that is stolen, bad things can happen. So it is easy to breach or break security in a credit card. You must also be cautious or careful because there are several laws you have to follow when you have a card. It is easy to break those rules, so you just have to be careful. So now checks. The advantages of checks are they do attract retirement age customers. Now that's not the biggest advantage, but it is good for businesses who target customers of older people. But for you as just a person, most large businesses like to pay for services with checks. So if they hire your business or just you for something, you would accept usually their check, and it would strengthen your partnership and help your business grow. However, there's a lot of disadvantages. Checks are quite old-fashioned, and sometimes, or these days, you can do electronic checks, but usually you'd have to take a trip to the bank, take an actual like physical walk to the bank. It's time consuming. Also, customers, if you're a business, customers can write you a check, take your product, and then retake their money back. It's a very like just manipulative process, and sometimes it works, and it's just a disadvantage of checks. So mobile payment, this has to do with smartphone payment. So payment you make or receive from your phone. The advantages are that everyone has a phone. The process is very fast. Maybe you've heard of Apple Pay or Google Pay. Those are apps on your phone that you can use in stores that accept mobile payment, and you can just pay just like that, very quick. Everyone has a phone. It's super easy. However, the biggest disadvantage is that it is not a huge, but kind of risky. It's kind of risky in terms of security. Your credit card info can be leaked because you are actually exposing your info to the business or person behind the counter when you're paying. That is a problem, but mobile payment is relatively safe. Okay, that actually ties into electronic payment. This is, oh my god, it is so common nowadays. You just go on Amazon or Target or eBay and you just buy things on the internet. Everyone does it now because it is the easiest payment option of all. It opens you to international business, so business around the world. You can buy something from Japan, right? So you can buy something from India, from anywhere, just anywhere, right? So, but the disadvantages are that, fees are very expensive sometimes. So if on Amazon, if you buy something, you get a shipping fee. You have to pay a shipping fee. So, because you are buying something maybe from far on the other side of the world, you are paying for, air fee or, air mail that your package has to ship or travel on the airplane, or just for those services, those international services, you have to pay for that, which is the disadvantage, but no one really cares nowadays. Okay, now we're getting into the most important part. So, budget balancing. Let's start with a whole new scenario. Let's say you're just at home, okay? You have $20 and you have to buy your friend's gift for her birthday party today. Her birthday party is today, so you have to buy a gift. But you also promised your neighbor a fruit basket. Here's your grocery list on the left and the price of the toy your friend really wants on the right. Can you buy everything with just $20? Well, if you haven't decided yet, well, we have bananas that are $1, fish that is $6, and then suddenly your present is $14.50. So automatically, if you add those all up, you just cannot buy everything with 20. And that actually brings us to, you'll have to prioritize your spending. So decide which items are most important at the moment. You probably have to buy that gift for your friend at the moment. So that's already $14.50 off your $20. And you can only buy a few things on your grocery list now. So apples and bananas for your neighbor. Yes, you didn't buy a lot of fruit for your neighbor, but your friend's present was more important. You'd save milk and eggs maybe for another time because it's not that important. And that's just budgeting. It's deciding how much money you have and how that money should be spent. It seems simple, but it's a, recurring problem in our everyday lives because it is sometimes hard to not spend money. You have to budget effectively. And that brings us to why budgeting is super important. Things like grocery shopping and buying presents for your friends will not be the only budgeting you'll be worrying about in the future. Remember, even if your job gives you money, you still have to pay income tax, payroll tax, property tax, and even, I didn't go over this yet, but you have to pay for the lights in your house and the water in your sink. It's crazy. But to be financially responsible, it all starts with budget balancing. So step 1 on how to budget. Choose a budget system. You can go the simple way with a notebook and pen, or you can use a spreadsheet, Microsoft Excel. If you don't know what that is, it's okay. Maybe you've used Microsoft Word before, and Microsoft Excel usually comes with it. You'll learn more about it in the future, but maybe you can start researching about it now. Same with free websites. There are websites that help you with budgeting. You can research that yourself. Step 2, setting a goal. There are 2 types of goals. Short-term goals. How should I use my money today? Long-term goals. How should I use my money today to have enough left for the future? That's kind of a whole ride for your brain. But here's an example. You need to buy food for dinner, but you also want those new shoes everyone wears. The food is necessary, but the shoes are a luxury, and buying the food is of the higher priority. And that actually has to do with separating your goals into necessities and luxuries. Necessities are, required, important items. You need food. Maybe you're not hungry, or maybe you just don't want to eat anything, but you need food, okay? You're not going to buy those shoes and not have any food. That's simple budgeting. Step 3, know your income and expenses. So remember, income is money you gain, and that means expenses is money you lose. So you pay that money away. You have to achieve balance between them, or else you'll end up, paying more than what you should be, and you'll start losing money at a rapid or quick rate. So I have this cute, paper and pen with all the different kinds of expenses. You don't need to memorize the terms at all. Just know that there are 3 different kinds of expenses. There's the unchanging monthly amount, so mortgage or rent. Remember, we went over mortgage. It is a loan that you will have to pay off to the bank because you borrowed money. Now you have to give the money back. That's mortgage. You're gonna have to keep paying that until it's all paid off. Variable expenses, those are they change a little bit. So based on your needs of food or gas for your car, you don't exactly know when you're going to when you're going to need them, but they are still expenses that you're going to be dealing with every month, right? Optional expenses, they're like entertainment, video games, movie tickets, accessories, clothes, anything. Those are optional expenses. Those you will always have to eliminate first if your budget is never working. You would have to eliminate those ones first. Never eliminate your, mortgage value or your food. No, you have to take out your optional expenses first. It's good to budget monthly because bills are also monthly. So I went over, electric bill, water bill. Those are usually monthly, so it's good to budget monthly. Step 4, savings. This is actually, really important. It is basically putting aside money as emergency. So savings, it is good to have about 6 months of income for your savings, and this is to save you, most importantly for when you unexpectedly lose your job. That's, very stressful, but if you have a decent amount of savings or money you put aside as emergency, you will be somewhat stable. Step 5, this is actually one of the most hardest steps. You need commitment. You always need commitment to complete your goals. If you stop midway, you'll just, completely give up and end up spending too much maybe, and you'll give in to your self-control. And without budgeting in the future, your life will become very hectic, very chaotic. You must always budget. If you're ever given an allowance or you're saving up money yourself right now, you can practice some of these budgeting skills. Even though they apply more to a few years from now when you have a job, you can actually still practice budgeting now. And most of them, even though they apply to when you're older and have a job, it is actually pretty important to start practicing now. So, here are just some, fun things. You can find games on these three websites, or you can watch a crash course video on the left. I love them, they are great. Or you can watch a budgeting basics. I uh, prefer these two videos. These are my top two videos for when you want to learn more or dive deeper into learning more about financial literacy.